going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. Now, let me speak to you for a minute, okay? Picture this. You've just made the greatest decision of your mortal life. Your mere existence has boiled down to you taking a trip to the promised lands, Japan. All right? You touch down, you think you're gonna have a fantastic holiday, and for the first couple of days you do, until you decide, oh, I'm sick and tired of the major cities. I've had enough of the hustle and bustle. I need some serenity. So you, in your infinite wisdom, decide to venture into the countryside of Japan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to find out why that might not be the best thing to do. So let me start this off with a story. All right, now this is a creepypasta, or I don't know, some sort of, it has to be made up, right? It can't be real, or that's what we would hope. It was a story found on Ni Channel, I believe, probably around the early 2000s era of the internet, when everything was fresh and fun, and forum boards weren't filled up with people that would wish death on you and your family, and racists spouting their hate campaigns. I definitely didn't do that. Nah. Anyway, right. So this user on Ni Channel goes on to tell a story. Okay, and I'm going to sort of summarize the story to get to our villain, should I say. So the user he visits his grandparents in the countryside of Japan, and they've begun to play outside. As they're a child, they want to go into the garden. They don't want to be cooped up indoors all day. No kid does, right? So they're in the garden playing, whatever kids do in the garden on their own. I don't know. I know I was a pyromaniac, but I knew better than to do that at my own house. I mean, anyway, so the garden, see, it's a typical Japanese garden. This garden is surrounded by hedges, and the hedges are pretty high up. And while they're playing, they look up and they see a hat, and it's a wide brim hat. They're quite commonplace in a lot of Asia. Obviously, it helps to protect the wearer from the harsh sunlight of the summer, right? And the person thinks to themselves, well, this hedge is like really high. Like, what? How is a hat floating that high up? But it doesn't look as though it's floating or sat on top of the hedge. It looks like somebody's still wearing it, or somebody's propping it up on perhaps a pole. And they distinctly remember the hedge being at least 8 meters tall, which is insane. 8 foot tall, sorry, which is insane. And as they're paying more and more attention to it, they hear a sound, and the sound is like a pole, and it's rhythmic, and obviously it hits them deep, and now they're sort of terrified, and so they run back in to tell their grandparents. And grandparents are doing what old people do. They're just relaxing, eating fruit, having tea. So the kid runs in and he says to his grandparents, yeah, I was playing outside, and there was like a really tall person behind the hedge. Grandparents aren't paying much attention to it. They're probably thinking, oh, it's just make believe. Until the kid says, the person that was wearing the hat said, pole. And that's when shit kicked off. Granddad, obviously, he grabs the kid and he's interrogating the kid, and he's asking him questions like, well, how tall was it? Did you see its face? Did they see you? Grandma's crying at this point. all of a sudden, Granddad leaves the kid in the care of Grandma, and he runs outside. Kid now is completely scared senseless at this point. They're crying, and the Grandma's comforting them, and the Grandma says, look, don't worry about it, your Granddad will take care of it, you're fine. Okay, a couple of hours later, Granddad returns, and he's got a lady with him, an older lady, similar age to his grandparents, and he says to the kid, look, we have to make sure that you're safe, and this lady is gonna help us make sure that no harm comes to you. So just follow her instructions, and you'll be all right. Now, the kid is obviously shaken up, but there's nothing that he can do. So he listens to what this lady has to say, and the lady goes on to tell him that the entity that he saw was a spirit that had been captured by the monks of said village, and it was contained in a shrine, and the villagers had put 4 Jesus statues on each corner of the village, each exit of the village. So they'll have one north, east, south and west, and by whatever happenstance, the entity is broken free from its restrictions, and it is out to spirit kids away. So the person then says, okay, look, we have to prepare for tonight, because what's going to happen is, now that they've taken a liking to you, they're not going to stop until they get you, basically. So the kid is taken upstairs, and this lady, who is now obviously a shaman, right, or a monk, or somebody that knows how to deal with supernatural entities, places 4 small bowls of salt on each corner of the room, sets up a small Buddhist altar, and gives the kid instructions. The person says, all right, we've covered up all the doors and windows. This entity is not allowed to see your face. Okay, you're not allowed to leave this room until 7 a.m. of the following morning. So any business that you need to do, you do it within this room. So the grandparents have then given the child the tools to relieve themselves in the room, given them food. She then goes on to say, if at any point you hear somebody that you think you know, ignore them. We're not gonna be involved. We're not gonna ask anything of you until the next morning when we come to collect you from the room. So don't speak to anybody, or don't interact with anything that tries to interact with you, basically. Otherwise, you're cooked, basically. So kid gets locked in the room, and obviously they do what they do, falls asleep, wakes up at around 2 a.m. and he hears a knock on the door. If you didn't hear that, it was a knock on. I was knocking out. He hears a knock on the door, and he hears his granddad. He says, "Yo, my boy, are you okay? You don't have to stay in there all night. Like, don't worry about it. Like, everything's fine now. You can come out of the room. Just open the door and let's forget about any of this happening." And the kid is, it's like he's worried now. It's like, well, is that my granddad or is he not? Because the shaman lady said that we wouldn't interact with you in any way. So the kid approaches the door a little bit closer. And as he gets closer to the door, he hears the sound again. Pull, pull, pull. That's when he steps back and he says, okay, that was a fucking close call. I could have been got. Okay, so 7 a.m. comes. The events were, he didn't deal with it. He passed out after what had happened. Woke up at 7 a.m. His grandparents came to collect him from the room, and as soon as they did, they ushered him into a car, and he's surrounded by unfamiliar faces. Granddad goes on to say, look, you might not recognize these people, but we all share the same bloodline. They're all distant relatives. Last night I went round and collected everybody. The entity can track you by your bloodline, your lineage. And so what I've done is I've gathered all these people here, all these men here, as to confuse the entity. So we're going to rush you out of the village now, at a point where the Jesus statue is not damaged, as to get you away from this entity. All right? Hopefully, having so many people that share the same bloodline in the same vehicle confuse the entity and sort of throw them off, but don't look at the entity at all. Keep your head down. Anyway, so they get out of there and they make it out there fine, but they're not allowed to re-enter the village because the entity will still try to spirit them away, essentially. So for those who don't know, a Jesus statue is a small sort of humanoid Buddha looking statue, often depicted with I don't know, sort of praying hands, maybe, I don't know, I'll throw some pictures up. But they're typically used for protection, for children especially, to offer safe passage for travelers. And sometimes they can have like little red bibs to sort of ward off evil spirits. And they're very commonplace in Japan. So if you ever go to Japan, you'll see them along roadsides or in cemeteries. They're all over the place. They're pretty cute. Now, like I said, look, Japan, they're supernatural entities or beings or people that come up with this stuff. They make it borderline impossible to escape. But here's what I do. Let's try to survive the best we can as an outsider, right? So, knowing that your time is limited, but you have time, what you can do is, this is what I do. I would run straight to the closest temple. I'll put a priest in a headlock and say, bro, bro, this is what I saw. She's after me. I'm not on it. Please protect me. Help me, please. Okay, and hopefully, the police, the priest agrees to your pleas of help. If not, judo sweep them and then run to the stand where they're selling the little blessings, the little amulets and protection charms. Okay, I'm gonna need to grab all of them and then start just dotting them on my body, on my persons, like air fresheners off a car, right? And then I'm gonna go to the prayer room, and I'm sure they'll have like a massive Buddha statue there, and I'll sit, I'll orientate the smaller ones around me and the bigger one behind me as to form like a little barrier between me and the entity. Hopefully it can't enter they can't enter through the Shinto gates, if that's what they're called, the little red, hopefully. But at least I'll be able to get some decent kit for one night, and then in the morning I'll dip, call an Uber and just jet as soon as possible, and then never go back to Japan, which is very disheartening. It's a great place. Go to Japan, man. It's cool. Don't be an idiot though. Go to Japan though. Anyway, yeah, but if not, you're cooked, bro. Anyway, guys, that's all for today. If you sort of enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Please leave a comment actually on saying, well, give me your plan. I want to know what you would do if faced with such a scenario. Anyways, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Check out the first video of the series. It should be up here somewhere. Take care.